I'm here with Cam Pipes of 3 Inches of Blood to talk about their reunion shows, and specifically the one in Toronto on July 20th at the Danforth Music Hall. How are things going with you?
Pretty great, actually. I'm in Seattle right now. We're playing a show here tonight, and then we've got a bit of a break before we head out to Eastern Canada next month. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
it's
guys are
a
playing
good time looking ahead.
you guys are playing 2 shows on this part of the country. We're finally get to see you guys. You guys already played in Vancouver in your hometown, so you're kind of spreading the wealth a little bit all over the place with a couple of shows here, a couple of shows there. Is this an easier approach for you guys versus actually sitting on a bus and actually hammering out a full-on blown tour?
Um, yeah, and I guess it is in some ways. A lot of it has to do with um, we're not really at the point where we can just kind of jump in a van or whatever and go do a bunch of tour dates. So we've got some jobs that we pretty good career jobs that we've got to tend to back home. So it's also more or less a we wanted to take this year to just kind of see how it would go and just kind of see where people wanted to see us and just make ourselves available to go there. So we started with Vancouver. We did Winnipeg last month, doing Seattle tonight, and then Toronto, Montreal, and then a few other places after that. So we're just trying to feel it out, get the vibe back, and just
See where it
go
all
where the
takes you.
people go. Just go where the people want us to start out. So.
So let me ask you this: 10 years since the band called it quits. What inspired you guys to bring the band back, and not only bring it back, but have these shows for the fans that were completely unexpected? I mean, when I heard you guys announcing it, I was like, they're back together? Is this happening?
Mhm.
Is this one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse? Like, are we about to see the end of the world as we know it? So what triggered it for you guys?
Well, a couple of us just sort of started talking one day and saying, "Hey, how would you feel about getting the band back together?" So that was Justin approached me, and we talked about it and said, "Well, talked about the what ifs and if we did it, like how would we want to approach it?" And we found that we were kind of a lot on the same page about a lot of things, and so then we went to the other guys and say, "Hey, we've been talking about this. How do you guys feel about it?" And we found that everyone sort of felt the same way. Um, we've even since we've been on hiatus, we've all been good friends still. So it wasn't really awkward getting back together and talking about it. It was more or less just seeing how everybody felt about it because we hadn't really talked about this at all for like 8 years. The idea of doing it again one day, um, but it just worked out good, and so it was a process from when we started talking to actually deciding, okay, let's set up some reunion shows in Vancouver. We talked and rehearsed and planned shit for well over a year before we finally made an announcement. So we just wanted to make sure we did it right and didn't do anything sort of haphazardly.
You guys obviously all get along with one another. I mean, if you didn't, you wouldn't be back together. So when you look back at 10 years, when you guys decide to put things on hold, was there one thing that led to that decision at that point in time?
Um, it was a multitude of factors, I think. We I think we're feeling a little bit stagnant in the metal scene in general. Touring didn't seem as, you know, not that it was ever glamorous, but it was losing some of its appeal. We kind of scaled back the amount of touring we had been doing anyway, and sort of tried to focus on um, making making a go of just our regular daily lives back home, and then doing the band a little bit less. And then we ended up taking a break for about a year, and then once we reconvened after a year, we sort of reassessed everything, and then some guys wanted to go a different direction with their lives in general. So we, rather than just try and replace half the band to keep touring with some whatever uncertainty we kind of lay ahead after that, we just decided to just put it to rest. And it didn't feel like at the time that it was something we were gonna like suddenly want to do ever again. Um, but you know, a lot can happen in 8 years. So um, luckily,
That
we all
is
stayed friends, and you know, so at least there's that. And I guess that helped to eventually lead to us talking again about playing.
And nearly 20 years since Advance and Vanquish was released. I know you guys are celebrating this record right now with during these shows. When you look back, 20 years is almost, it's a lifetime for some. I know for my son, he's 19, so that's for sure a lifetime for him.
Hmm.
When you look back at this record, does it make you feel old or does it make you feel accomplished?
I'd say the latter. Um, because I maybe it's due to the time we've had off. It suddenly is like, wow, like 20 years this album's been around. So it had been out a little over 10 years by the time we called it a day. And so, you know, a lot can happen in that time, but then time can kind of fly pretty fast as well. So um when we decided we're going to reunite, it suddenly dawned on us, oh yeah, like 2024 is going to be the 20th anniversary of this record. So that kind of works out cool. Let's do something to acknowledge that. So it was just sort of a happy coincidence there. But hey, it's for us. I think it's a pretty landmark record, so it's appropriate, and people still really like that record. So yeah, it's just a cool coincidence that you know, it's 20 years for that record, and then us also getting back together at the same time.
Does the longevity of this album and the wait time has been kind to it, like this record sounds as good today as it did 20 years ago. Does that speak volumes to how much ahead of the curve perhaps you guys were musically?
Perhaps. I mean, our influences are definitely old school. But certainly at the time, I think we always felt like we kind of stood out from a lot of our peers, these bands that were, you know, our contemporaries back then, but weren't necessarily playing the same style of metal. Um, but I think it's kind of come full circle now. I think there's a lot more bands, newer bands that are gravitating towards this traditional metal style. And so maybe I feel like we're maybe fit in a little better now. Um, you know, we certainly didn't let the stylistic differences back then deter us. You know, if anything, it kind of helped us stand out from the pack a little bit, even if we weren't like the flavor of the week back then. We weren't the cool type of metal to play. You know, that those sort of trends never really motivated us anyway, because you know, we've always just played what we liked.
You guys played some earlier shows in Vancouver, your hometown. How was that experience? Because playing at home, I'm sure it's always going to have a different vibe, a different feel from playing anywhere else.
It does. Certainly, we love playing in Vancouver, but there was always the little bit of added pressure because it is our hometown, and we're also very aware that these shows might go over really well, but you know, Vancouver's you know, our town, so it's going to be different than everywhere else. So to see the reaction we've gotten from ticket sales for the other shows we've done or have coming up has been also very encouraging. So um, it's nice to see that, you know, we can appeal to people outside of our hometown and in a similar sort of level. But also, like, a lot of people flew in to see us in Vancouver, so um,
I know a few.
that also another
I know a
indicator that
few.
it's not just our hometown fans. It's like people who want to come see us regardless of where we are. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always felt interesting is even though you guys didn't make any music for almost 10 years, fans would always talk about you guys, even when other bands would come out of Canada, specifically out of Vancouver. I remember like when Unleash the Archer started to become a little bit more famous and a little bit more popular, your name was always not that far behind. Did you guys keep your ears to the ground and notice that the fan love and support never really wavered?
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. I mean, I may not have had my ear as close to the ground as some of the other guys, but I tried to keep our social media somewhat active during that time. And I would see the comments about, oh, come on, when are you guys getting back together? Oh, does this mean you're doing a reunion? Oh, are you guys going on tour again? When are you coming back? And so on and so forth. So I knew it was there. Um, and that's great. And so it's something I always kept in the back of my mind. Like, if I always was open to the possibility. And then it just took Justin bringing up like, hey, would you be interested in doing this again? Um, so it's a cool thing to know that people were still thinking about us, even though we were um, not active.
When you look at everything that you guys are doing, booking all of these shows, playing all of these different cities, is there a goal in mind? Is there a bar that you're trying to reach? Is there a measure of success that you need in order to perhaps even look beyond these shows?
Um, I think for now our goal has just been, let's see how 2024 goes and take a very measured approach. I don't think any of us are ready to like hop in a van and like tour all over the states or anything like that quite yet. Um, but we just wanted to see who wanted to have us, because we've had people reach out to us and just kind of explore each opportunity as it comes. Um, like I said before, we've kind of got to work around our daily non-music lives as well and kind of balance that. Um, but I think we're happy with what we're doing to start, and I think pretty soon we're going to start looking at next year and figure out our plans and what we want to do in 2025. But for now, we're happy with the response we've gotten from people and promoters calling us and saying, "Hey, come play here," and let's work it out. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to take every opportunity that's presented itself, but it's nice to know that there's options there, and I don't know, maybe we'll be able to capitalize on some of the stuff that we couldn't do this year, but maybe we can do next year.
And one of those is playing in Toronto. Like I said, July 20th at the Danforth. You guys are headlining your show there. What memories do you have of playing on the East Coast, playing in cities like Toronto, Montreal? You also have a Montreal show around that same time. Do you have fond memories of this part of the country?
Absolutely. Like, I was born in Toronto, but I was very young when I moved away, so I don't really have any memory of it being very young. I was just a baby. But we've since toured a lot in Canada, and so we've been to Toronto and Montreal numerous times. My wife's from Montreal, so I always have a great time when she's able to be there at the same time we're playing and show me around her home. And we've got a lot of great friends that we've made in the Toronto area as well. So um, I haven't been there in a long time though, so it'll be cool to get back and explore. I might a couple of us, I think, are talking about spending an extra day and going to the Hockey Hall of Fame the day after the show, because that's something I haven't done in a really long time, and I really like going there. So, but yeah, it'll be a nice time to be there too. Like Toronto in the summer is gorgeous. So really looking forward to coming back and hopefully get to spend some time, just you know tooling around the city before we have to like actually play the show. So we'll see how that goes.
Make it a little bit of an outing, if you will. Like add a little bit of sightseeing and to the trip here. I think that's a great idea. It's a great way to add a little bit more value to what's already a very valuable trip to Toronto and to Montreal. You guys picked some local bands to open up for you guys. Is it important for you to support the local scenes where you guys are playing, to give back to Canadian bands, to help them lift them up and give them a little bit of a spotlight?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've made a point of uh picking band like of us picking the bands rather than, or at least making a really concerted effort to uh do some research and find out who the bands are that are kind of making some noise in their hometown, and putting them on our show. Uh, so you know, it's we've definitely had some help from friends in these towns and who've given us suggestions, and that's how we've at least been able to pick some of the support bands that we've got for the Vancouver show. Or well, the Vancouver show, they weren't a local band, but they were friends of one of the guys in our band, and so we brought them up to play. And but all the other shows like Toronto, Montreal, and the Alberta shows we got come up in November, and even tonight in Seattle, like these are all bands that um, or we're friends with, or that friends of ours know, and we're like, hey, you guys got to put these guys on the show.
I think it's great what you guys doing. Not a lot of bands do that kind of stuff, and I think it's great for the local community, for the music scene, specifically for us here in Canada. I mean, you guys carry a lot of weight when it comes to the metal scene in Canada. You guys are a well-respected band for everything that you've done and everything you represent for Canadian metal. So I honestly think that what you guys are doing is outstanding work, giving these smaller bands an opportunity. Like you said earlier, it's been a long time since you guys have been on the road playing shows. You're a much wiser man now. When you look at the landscape of Canadian metal, is it better today than it was 10 years ago?
It's hard to say because haven't been at it for a while, so it's sort of relearning or just figuring out now what the whole metal landscape is like again. I you can only do so much, being on social media, but until you're actually in a particular city and talking to people like in each town, then it's hard to really get a sense of what it's like. Our drummer Ash, he's been out there like doing it nonstop though, ever since we broke up. Um, with him playing in Revocation, so he's got a good sense of what's going on out there. With all the touring he's still been doing all this time, and he's been all over the world, multiple times in the since we went on hiatus. So he's got a better sense of what's going on. Um, but I guess we're a little bit wiser, but we're still learning as well.
Well, what can you tell us for the Toronto show? What can you tell us about the set list? Are you guys playing the album from start to finish? Are you going to include a few other tracks? Like, what's the plan that you guys have?
We're playing like a majority of the record, like more than three-quarters of it, and then songs from other records as well. So it's a mix of a little bit of everything.
There's a little bit for everything to enjoy. I love this idea and I love this approach. Cam, I know you're busy. I know you're in Vancouver. You're playing a show. I just want to thank you, first of all, for taking the time to chat with me today. You guys are coming to Toronto July 20th at the Danforth. I cannot emphasize that enough for those that haven't picked up a ticket yet to go and pick up a ticket. The show is going to be packed. Raider is opening for you guys, a local band here from Toronto, friends of mine. So thank you very much first for taking them with you on that show, and then thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Of course, my pleasure. It's our only show in the area this year, so
You don't want to miss it.
If you're outside of Toronto and don't live too far away, like this is the closest you're going to get. So,
And I have even a better idea. You buy a ticket for the show and a ticket for the Hall of Fame. So most likely they'll get to see you guys doing some slap shot contests there the next day.
yeah, I can't wait for both the show and the Hall of Fame.
Take care, man. All the best. Safe travels.
Thanks very much.
Take care, man. Bye.
All right, see ya.